Want to recap your question real quick?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the question that I
The question
had
that you
was,
asked, yeah.
do I believe, or I asked you, or and
Mhm.
everybody else that wants to answer it, do I think that the Kings can get better? Can they play better? Can they improve this season?
Yeah.
A lot of the time, like it's March 20th. Like you kind of are who you are at this point. I don't think you can get drastically better, but I do think they can get a little better on defense. When you just talk about the second unit,
Yeah.
and this is no shade to anybody, but you can go out there sometimes in the second unit and have Davion guarding the perimeter along with Kessler Edwards.
Mhm.
Like you can do that now.
Mhm.
Late in games, depending on the situation, you have another option to throw at a wing player that's going off. Once again, not saying you're gonna completely stop them, but somebody that's gonna make them work, that can use their speed and size and length to make it difficult
Mhm.
for Devin Booker, for Paul George, for Luca, for Jamal Murray,
Mhm.
something like that, to go along with Davion, who was already kind of doing that. So I I think they can get better.
I agree completely. And here's why.
Thank you.
Um, I took some notes. I put them in our show notes. I watched the game. I watched the Wizards game yesterday. I
Mm.
watched it. I watched it again yesterday, and I was kind of like, look. I think. I think because I saw this, I know I feel like I'm watching it in a weird way.
Mm.
So I just look down at everything that I'm writing, and I'm like, there's a consistent theme to it. All right, I watched it, took these notes. I think what I saw was real.
Mhm.
YouTube TV has this great feature with games where it shows like key plays, and it's really just a bunch of basically highlight clips that
Mhm.
you could recap. You can't really get a feel for a game, but you can see stuff, right?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I wrote that play down. Oh, I wrote. Oh, I wrote this one down too. They were all defensive plays.
Mm.
A couple of them were
Mm.
from De'Aaron Fox. Hell, one was from Terrence Davis. We were just talking about Terrence Davis picking somebody at midcourt, taking it to the rack. They gave up. So I this is where I thought like people might roll their eyes. I was like, yo, what was the score of the game? Like, what am I missing? Okay, they gave up 118 points,
Hmm.
but I felt like that defensive. We talk about moments, right? I thought the moments were more consistent. Normally, when we talk about defensive moments, we're often talking about like in a critical situation in the fourth quarter, we're talking about critical possessions, maybe two, maybe three, where
Mhm.
you see them step up and and with Sacramento, you get two defensive possessions in a row, two defensive stops in a row. That tie game could turn into a 6-point lead. You get one more, it become an 8-point lead,
Mm.
9-point lead. Like
Right.
they can blow a score up pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I thought they were better. I thought those defensive moments were more spread out through the game.
Mm.
I thought De'Aaron Fox was really active on the defensive end. Um, Davion Mitchell's always very active. I thought Terrence was really good. Off the top of my head now, I know I saw it. I don't remember who got the chain.
Davion.
Davion got it. Okay,
Mhm.
that adds up. Um, I think the answer to your question is yes. They can get better defensively. Yes, the answer to your question is yes, they can get better overall because I think they can get better defensively.
Mm.
I think we're starting to see it now. To be fair, I'm probably channeling my inner James Ham here. I don't know where Washington is at and what they're thinking. Like I don't know that they're ramping up for anything. I don't know that they're even particularly good. Um, I think I'll have a far better takeaway or a far better vision of this team potentially improving defensively if we see it like tomorrow,
Mhm.
if we see it Friday, if we see it with an opportunity to clinch, be it Friday, Saturday, the following Monday. Like I might get a better feel against those teams, even Utah,
Mhm.
because I think we're a bit unsure of the direction Utah is going to go. Though the decision to sit virtually everybody is
Anybody that can
interesting.
score a basket is
Yeah.
sitting there.
Um, I think you can see it without squinting, right? Well, not you. You can't see anything, but
I struggle.
I've got LASIK. I think I see it. I can see it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and
I don't know why. I feel like it's becoming a little bit clearer.
mm-hmm.
It's happening more often. It's not late in the game. It's not just. It's those defensive plays are happening a lot more often.
Yep, I agree.
Those stretches of good defensive plays are happening a lot more often.
And I feel like, just by virtue of the way they play, the style that they play, the way they score, you're gonna have games where, they're giving up 115 or something like that.
Mhm.
Like, that's just kind of the way they play. But I look at the squad, man, like you say, you actually watch them play, and it's not horrendous defense. They have moments where there's horrendous defense.
Sure.
But they also have moments where they're really locking in on defense. And sometimes that results in stats. Sometimes that results in like tough shots being made by the other team or great offense. Like even the Minnesota game a couple weeks ago, they made all those threes. I thought Minnesota was doing a great job of the action that they were having on the offensive end, getting guys wide open. And then they were hitting shots. So sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it's just flat out bad defense. But like you, I'm starting to see the flat out bad defense less and less.
Yeah, and it's just like, and I don't know. Maybe we need to recondition what we think about good defense. When you score 132, when you score 132 points, the chances of it being 132 to 101 are pretty slim. And I'm sorry to use this word, but you're playing a certain pace. You're moving at a certain clip, right? You have a goal offensively. There are going to be more possessions for everybody in a Sacramento Kings game because of the way that they choose to play. I think a good defensive effort for Sacramento isn't the same as a good, what, say, Mike Budenholzer would consider a good defensive effort for Milwaukee, or Joe Mazzola would consider a good defensive effort for Boston. They're probably lingering closer to, 107 and below, 110 and below, somewhere around there. I don't think that's the case for Sacramento because that's not how Sacramento plays offensively.
Right.
They're attempting, as we just said, you're going to have more possessions when you're playing the Sacramento Kings. There's going to be more offensive possessions there just because of the pace. And I think if we adjust the way we think about defense, and maybe there's like a Sacramento Kings curve. Maybe there's the way the top, the better defenses in the league play. Or perhaps we narrow this down a little bit and we just look at the 12 defenses in the top 6 of each conference. And then look to see how much different Sacramento is than those defenses. And we have to also factor in how much different is the Kings offense than them, and see how that all spreads out. We know bad defense when we see it. We've seen it a lot. We've seen it this year. We've seen a lot of it over the last couple of years. But I think this version is very, very different than anything we've seen before. We're not seeing, no matter what numbers you use, no matter where they're ranked, we're not seeing bad defense this year. We're seeing we're seeing defense that's kind of on a Sacramento Kings curve here.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying completely.
I could have just made all that up. None of that may be true,
I mean,
but it feels like I don't feel
like
I'm watching a bad defensive basketball team. I've seen bad defensive moments. I've seen bad defensive games. I don't feel like I'm watching a bad defensive team.
They have had lapses where it just sticks out like a sore thumb. It really hurts them. They give up.
Sore thumbs hurt.
They do hurt. You see those lapses. They're clear as day. But I know a lot of people dismiss it, but I think there is something to the fact that in the fourth quarter, in these tight games, they lock up and they have whatever the ranking is, 9th best defense or whatever the case may be. We go back to, and it's frustrating for some because it's like, why can't you do that all the time? That's not who they are.
Yeah.
That's just not who they are. They're not going to lock up for the first 2 quarters or the first 3 quarters. And that's not who they are. When the game gets tight and a stop is needed to get you to the finish line, they do that. I said we saw that in the Knicks game where they were horrendous on the on their defensive boards, giving up offensive rebounds. Horrendous. Final 6 minutes of that game, there wasn't no offensive boards happening for the Knicks. Where it was one shot and out pretty much every time. They have that ability. I'm not saying that's how you should live, but clearly that's kind of who they are. And once again, I need to see somebody. We talk about the playoffs because the playoffs are different. I understand what everybody says, just the nature of the playoffs as far as like you play the same team possibly 7 games.
Yeah.
That's different.
That's different.
That's absolutely different.
For sure.
I get that. I want to see somebody for 4 times stop the Kings from scoring as much as they need to and score at this unbelievable rate to beat them. The defense for the Kings be that bad for 4 times where they just can't. It's atrocious and they can't win a game.
One of the best teams in the league.
I'm sorry. I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm just saying it's a little harder than I think people are giving the Kings credit for right now.
No, I completely agree. It's why I think the Kings have a very real chance to go to the Western Conference Finals. I think the Kings have a chance to go to the NBA Finals. We go back, one of the best teams, the best team in the league, gave up 124 to Sacramento, had to score 133 themselves. That's another team that's very capable of scoring a lot of points, but that's what you have to do to beat Sacramento. It's a rare high scoring. We talked about it the day after that game. It was a rare high scoring loss for Sacramento. You'll probably need, if you're going to beat the Kings 4 times, you're going to need at least 3 of those. At least you could, maybe one bad night, but you're going to need 3 of those in a series to beat the Kings. It's going to be tough. That's going to be tough.
And the thing that I can't wait for, because this always happens, man. It's how, with this particular Kings team, man. It always happens. Say the Kings first 2 games of the series and go to 1, and they win the game, right? They win. It don't matter by how much, close ball, whatever, they win. And then they'll lose game 3. And see, we told you in the playoffs, it's different when you play these guys. They see you more than one time.
You can't,
no matter what, it's always going to be that.
Yeah, you can do that when they lose game 5. You can't do that if they lose.
Look, they're going to say that if they lose game 1.
Oh, they're definitely going to say that if they lose game 1. Yeah, there's no doubt about that.
They can lose the game. They can lose game 1 by like 3.
Yeah.
And see, well, I told you, it gets real in the playoffs.
Well, the best part about it is they could lose game 1 by 3, 136 to 133. Well, it's not the same. There's not going to be a team in the postseason that the NBA is going to be more eager to say, see, I told you so, than Sacramento.